There it is. Okay. I'm going to be quiet for 5 seconds.
Okay.
Good morning, Sheila. How are you today?
I'm excellent. How are you today, Wayne?
I'm doing well, thank you. And welcome to 27 Minutes with Sheila and Wayne to all of our listeners out there. And dun, 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 we have now been heard in 18 different countries. The Philippines, our latest country listening to our podcast. That's
Yay.
exciting.
That is exciting.
It is. It is. I opened up the analytics and there it says Philippines. I'm like, oh no, look at this. We're growing. Still, this is good. Yes. And this is episode number 79. Can you believe that?
That is amazing.
I'm in awe. I really am. And
We need-
Sheila, where can our listeners find you?
Oh, thank you, Wayne. I can be reached at zekeandsheila@yahoo.com.
And I can be reached at wayne@mindsinking.com. And please send us your words that you would like, the verbs that you would like us to talk about, feedback, and keep that coming, because oh my goodness, it's always fun to read some of those that I opened up the emails on. And Sheila, talking about verbs, what is our verb that we are talking about today?
Today's verb is to implement, which means to put a decision or plan or agreement into place. Not to be confused with the noun, which is implement is a tool, a utensil, or a piece of equipment.
Okay. And I have to start using a plan or system. I also have to put a plan or system into operation. I think it's pretty close. To put a plan into action. So here we have operations, action, all those kinds of things. And I have two more: to carry out or accomplish something. And the last one, to take steps to put into practice.
Great.
I like practice. That's such a great
I do too,
term.
because one of the things I've discovered about implementing any kind of plan or business strategy is that it's not ever done, because change is constant. And so there's always tweaking and refining and improving an implemented plan.
And I almost put whiteout on my computer once as I was doing a Word document.
Well, Wayne, I have a little trivia question to answer at the end of the show.
Okay.
Given that we know that a big part of implementing any change going forward has to do with technology, here's the question. I'm going to introduce it by saying up until 1995, domain names were free. But what has been the most expensive domain name price? I will tell you, the domain itself that is the most expensive or has been is carinsurance.com. So the question is, how much did that cost?
Wow. I would have never thought car insurance. I was thinking other things.
Right. Sometimes celebrity names go for a lot of money. So that's to get us started.
Okay. Yes. Well, and how about you? When I pulled implement out of my little gelato jar here that has all the verbs in it, what did you think about implement? What did you think initially?
The first thing I thought was, probably this is right up your alley, because I think of project managers implementing business solutions, and I think about the fact that you have that as an amazing skill set, and you've written and talked a lot about leadership, and good leadership is essential for implementing any kind of change.
Well, thank you for that compliment. But you know what? You need to look in the mirror, because you have a lot of those too. So
okay, well, thank you.
There's two ways to shed the light. You could be the candle or the mirror that reflects it, right? Yes.
Okay.
And when I thought about the verb, I was excited because it reminded me of one of my favorite proverbs. And I typically say this to people sometimes. I go, thinking about it does not cook the rice.
Yes, I like that. Yes.
Yes. And I don't know about you, but many times I've heard, I've read, or I've witnessed someone offering what I thought was a great solution to a challenge, just to have it die on the vine, if you will. And it died because, they just couldn't make it happen. They talked about it. They talked about it to death. They talked about it for weeks, turned into months, which could be years. And all of a sudden, it just nothing. went to nothingness.
Mhm.
And implementation is a hard thing for individuals, and I'm not sure if it's across the board that way, but I think people just find it hard implementing things. What
It's
about you?
interesting because I was looking at how the process differs when you're, say, implementing a physical activity into your day, or Harvard public health system has a list of how to implement public health changes in a community. I was thinking about implementing romance in your marriage
Hmm.
or implementing change in the workplace, and they all seem to be generally based on the same thing, which is the same number of steps, which is to plan, to observe what the situation is now, to set your goals on what you want it to look like. And actually, you are probably even more thorough with the list of steps to do, but to start slowly and correct as you go, to engage other people in the change so that they can be cooperators and not complainers, um, to allow for recovery time, or
Mm-hmm.
time
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that it is actually working, and to put all that plan on paper so that it can be measurable, and that you can make sure you're making progress. And that even works with implementing romance. You can be intentional about it.
Okay, well, I think you have surmised the two sheets of paper I have here. So
See, but you're going to do a much better job of explaining those.
I don't know about that, but I,
Mhm.
I, I do have on my paper, and I will get there. I went to the Indeed website because as I was doing some research,
Mhm.
I found this thing. The Indeed website has a guide to process implementation,
Okay.
which talks about some of those steps that you already articulated.
Mhm.
It also has tips for process implementation.
Okay.
And I thought about Jennifer Milius's in my book, because we have a chapter in our book
Mhm.
called SIP Cubed, which
Right.
talks about this as well. So, I got it from many angles and perspectives. And if you don't mind, I'll just kind of jump right into.
Jump in, please.
Okay. All right. And going back to that thought process when I said, have you ever heard or seen or witnessed or read where someone has come up with this great solution for a challenge
Mhm.
and then it just kind of goes away? And then what, 3, 4 months later, a new person comes in and says the exact same
Mhm.
thing. And the excitement and awareness begins all again. And then all of a sudden it just kind of goes away. I don't know how many times I've seen that. And it's frustrating to me to watch.
Mm.
And at the same time, it must be frustrating to the individuals. I have a quote. Dun, 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 dun.
Ooh, let's hear it.
And I know it's not going to be anywhere near close to as fun as your quotes,
I have a
but
few.
this one is from Effie Blake. I'm not sure who Effie Blake is, but she
Okay.
says 9 times out of 10, when you know you're right and don't implement what you think, you'll be sorry.
Well, that fits with what you're describing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes. So I kind of went off, much like you said, because you talked about romance and you talked about business, and so personal
Mhm.
and business. And
Mhm.
I went back to, again, my personal and business kind of analogy.
Right.
And I said,
Right. That's so helpful. Yeah.
how to implement a plan from the ground up and
Mhm.
get it up and running either in business or in pleasure.
Oh,
And
perfect.
as you said, identify the challenge, issue or reason the conversation is underway. Just identify what is that? What are we
Mhm.
talking about?
Mhm.
Canvas those smart individuals around you
Ah.
and around the problem and help and have them devise a plan.
Mm.
Third thing I said was implement the plan and make sure that you have course corrections as needed along the way. And
Mhm.
and here's an easy example for the personal side. How about the dance that we all do? Hey, would you like to go to a restaurant and have some, get some food? And
Whatever
it's
you feel like.
yeah, exactly. And which restaurant you want to go to? Which restaurant you want to go to? So I hear you laughing. So I think you've had that dance once or
I
twice.
may have. We
You
may
may have.
have. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, the challenge is easy because in this instance, the challenge, the issue, or the reason for the conversation is clearly food, right? You want to go to
Right.
the restaurant and eat something.
Right.
Yes. Right.
Yes.
So I think narrow the scope. Are we talking fast food, talking lunch, dinner, a particular dish, a particular cuisine that you would just have this taste for, just to kind of help narrow the scope and get things moving, and then offer a few places and say, would you like to go here? Would you like to go there? Not go there? And sometimes I found it easy to just say, okay, and I just jump in the car. We could jump in the car, and I just start driving. And
Oh,
questions come. Where are we going? And I
is that
say,
a
we're
question
going
from
here.
both of you, or have you got a plan?
Yeah, I have a plan,
Oh, okay, okay.
but I'm making course corrections as the conversation goes. Well,
Yes.
I was thinking more or less, okay, so I could turn right here and go to that
hmm
restaurant.
hmm
So I found that sometimes getting the ball rolling helped hasten or helped to reach a decision before 3 hours went by of where do you want to go? I don't know where you want to
So
go.
basically, you were gathering data and then narrowing the choices as you got more information to make it a more precise um, outcome.
Exactly.
Well
Yes.
played.
Yes, exactly. And you know what? I'm sure you've done this. Which sports did you play in school or just for fun?
Uh,
Okay. Which which extracurricular activity did you do? Were you in chorus? Were you in band? Um,
mm,
okay. Were you in
Student
speech
government.
club?
Student government.
Student government. Okay, excellent. Student government. So how did you steer the conversations in your student government?
So I was also in a lot of volunteer organizations. So it depends on the group because it's different based on the composition of the group. If I was if I was talking as the class treasurer, then I would certainly talk about the resources we have and the resources we
Mm,
need. If I was involved with the Kiet group, I would be trying to engage cooperation from among the others for volunteer programs that we were going to
aha.
put on. And so I would be talking with a great deal of enthusiasm about the benefits of certain volunteer projects in a persuasive fashion
Yes.
in for that audience.
And I like the way you started that. You said when I was in talking about finance, you said
hmm
you kind of talked about in terms where financial individuals think.
hmm
What
hmm
resources do we have and what
hmm
do we need? And you said the volunteer group, you were talking about something else. So the first, you're right. One of the first secrets is when you're talking to groups, you got to realize who the group is
Right.
and what excites that group.
Yes.
And if you're talking to finance individuals, they don't want to know about advertising or marketing. They want to know dollars. Let's talk about dollars,
Someone
bottom
else is going to
line.
take care of that other
E-
soft science.
Exactly, right? Exactly. Because we do the hard stuff. We do the bottom line. We get down
Right.
to that nickel and nose, nickel and
That's right.
dimes,
Black
and
and
we
white.
it exactly or red and black.
Or blue and purple, right?
Yes. All right. So my business example, and I said an easy example here is a new hire.
Okay.
So first, as you said, recognize the why. Why do we need a new hire? And questions that could come up are, do we need it? Do we want one?
Mm,
Must we have one?
mhm,
Is it a have to have or a like to have? And what are the gains if we do? What are the gains if we don't? Clearly, the issue is a new employee, but the question is, what do we not have that we think we need that this
mm,
person can provide?
mhm,
And you go from there, and then you implement that plan. As you said, you gather people, you gather you talk about, all right, how much money do we have? How much money can we afford? um, why do we need this individual? Should it be a long hire? Should it be a short time hire? What is it, part-time, permanent? And in
mhm.
today's speech, is it going to be um, telemarketing, or are we not telemarketing,
Oh, teleworking, right,
teleworking? Is it going to be teleworking, or is it going to be in the office?
right. Because
Ex-
that has an impact on costs and resources as well.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. And then you have to decide on the skill sets. Okay, well, what do we want this person to do
Mhm,
that we don't have?
mhm,
And you just go through there and you implement that plan. You come up with a plan and you say, okay, answer all those questions, and then you implement that plan. And much to your compliment, where you talked about, ooh, and you have to have metrics, and you have to have this on
Mhm.
paper so you can, then you start asking the questions, okay, did we get what we needed or wanted?
Right. Right.
Are we satisfied?
Mhm.
Are we better off? Are we worse off?
It's a good point. Good point.
And is it working to our benefit? And so what I'm suggesting here is an essential ingredient of implementation is always, no matter if it's personal in nature or personal or professional in nature, you have to have follow through.
Right.
You got to have follow through, much like the tennis swing or the golf swing, or
Oh, right.
you
Right.
right. You got to
Yep.
have follow through, and the
Yep.
follow through is all of those things that you said. Looking at the metrics, is it
Right.
working?
Right.
Is it what
Right.
we wanted? Are we wasting time, money? I don't know.
Can I give you an example of a very poorly implemented program? So I was researching bad examples of implementing change.
Okay.
So, because they did all the wrong things according to what you just described.
Ooh.
It was a high school, and they were tired of people wearing inappropriate clothing.
Mhm.
So they implemented a rule at the school that the if you violated the dress code, you would have to wear a neon yellow T-shirt that said DCV, dress code violator shirt that day.
Okay.
Turns out everybody started violating the dress code because everybody wanted one of those shirts.
Ah.
And a week later, they had certainly spent that time saying, well, this isn't working. What were we thinking? A week later, they started selling those shirts to students and made extra money for the school. So they poorly implemented the dress code violations. However, they were able to turn that around and still make it a positive experience.
Excellent. And and that's more fun than a car wash, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Golly,
Having
yes.
done many a car wash in my life, yes.
And I think I read a book about that called The Scarlet Letter a long time ago.
Oh, or a neon yellow shirt. So same difference. Right,
Exactly.
right. I thought you were
Yes.
telling me that a car wash was like the Scarlet Letter,
Oh,
but
no, 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 no. The car wash is
no, it was
activity
the
that everybody gets in and they have fun. And all of a sudden, here, serendipitously, they found a way to raise money. And
yes, yes,
yes,
yes. So that was someone who quickly turned that around with creativity. And
X.
however, they hadn't addressed the problem they were initially concerned about.
Okay, we'll deal with that later, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. Okay. I'm sure you have some quotes for us. I know you have some quotes. I can't wait to hear
Well,
them.
this may be a contributor to people who come up with plans that never get implemented. But Curtis Sittenfeld said, I enjoy reading tips about how to be more organized, and I rarely implement them. So sometimes it has to do with intention.
Yes. And that's that practice that we talked about earlier on, right?
Right.
To,
Yes.
to,
Yes.
to put
Yes.
something into practice. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and then the second one here I'm going to say is it turns out a lot of people in their resumes say implemented. I implemented this, I implemented that. And
Mm.
so C.S. Lewis, of all people, an author, said, always prefer the plain, direct word to the long, vague one. Don't implement a promise, keep a promise.
Oh,
Hmm.
yes.
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
So don't use that word in your resume anymore. Use shorter,
Okay.
more direct words.
I'm striking implement it out.
Good. Excellent. Well
All
done.
right. Going to the Indeed website, I
Yes.
found again the guide to process implementation. And they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points here.
Okay.
The first one was form a project team. The second one was define the process.
Hmm.
The third one was assign roles and duties. The fourth one says to build support. The fifth one says create training programs. And then the sixth one says implement processes with defined objectives. And from there, you adjust processes.
Hmm.
So that is Indeed, from Indeed's website, is a guide to process implementation. Now, go ahead. I
Well,
heard you have a
you
thought.
did hear an intake of breath because I was reading a little bit about how sometimes an organization will feel like they have to have buy-in from everybody before they can get started on implementing a change.
Okay.
But in fact, some research has suggested that you only need about 25% of the people in the organization to be on board initially, maybe even a little less. And in the process of doing those steps that you've just described, more and more people will buy into it. So they don't have to make that decision ahead of time, and they'll still be a cooperative force as you progress with the change.
Okay. And I have a I was hesitant, but I think I'm going to say it anyway.
Okay.
I have a secret about buy-in,
Okay.
and the secret is, do I tell the secret or not? I'm thinking. I'm thinking. Do
What
I?
can be harmed by telling this secret?
Okay, here's the secret of buy-in.
Okay.
Because with this secret, I have found that more than 25 or 27% of the people who really kind of buy into the thing,
Yeah.
if with this secret ingredient that I have, more people, many more people buy into it, and it makes the change easier.
Okay.
Not easy, easier.
Does it have to do with chocolate?
Ooh, almost.
Okay. All right.
But it has to do with you, YOU. Or
Ah.
if you look in the mirror, it has to do with ME.
Okay.
And here's the secret. If they trust me,
Mm,
if they trust my opinion, if they respect me
mm.
because I respect them, because I trust them, we have this relationship at work, and everybody says, ooh, everything that Wayne touches turns to gold, or everything that Sheila touches turns to gold.
Ah,
And if Sheila backs it, I'm going to back it too. They
nice.
have to buy into you.
Yeah,
It's
that
not
makes a lot of sense.
it's not the thing, it's not the program, it's not the process, it's not the piece of equipment, the new piece of equipment. It's buy into you. If they buy into Sheila and Sheila says, you know what, guys, this is a good thing, we should do this. It is easier to implement that and get buy-in.
Does this mean I have to stop taking people's food out of their drawers when they've left their desk?
Well, sometimes.
Well, or just not get, or just point the finger at someone else. No, just kidding. I don't do that. I don't do that.
Yes, but that helps with implementation. If they
Yeah,
buy into
that makes a lot
you,
of sense. Yeah.
if they buy into you, implementing whatever it is that you want to implement into the organization or the relationship is easier.
Thank you
Is
for that.
yes, yes. Going back to tips for the process implementation from
Yes.
Indeed's website,
Hmm.
they say prioritize process implementation. Ooh, prioritize. What a novel approach. You mean some things are more important than others? They say give room for improvement. Ah, so here we go back to, and I'm sure you've taken this in management courses, and we have all had this ad nauseum, but it's it's looking at those possible alternative solutions, testing the
Okay.
alternatives.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, evaluate organizational structure. So you've got to evaluate the organizational structure. So that means going from the hierarchy, who's in charge. Again, who are you talking to? Who are you talking to?
Hmm.
And and make those conversations directed to that individual or that group that understands what you're talking about. Because if you're talking to marketeers, talk about marketing. Talk about marketing. Talk
Hmm.
about
Hmm.
that reach. Talk about how to, because they're right there with you. If you're talking about the delivery, the pickup and delivery ladies and guys, talk to them about, oh yeah, when you get in the cars and you get in the trucks and you're going this way and you got to turn, talk to them in terms that they understand
Right.
and that they thrive on. Two last things.
Okay.
Ask for input. Wow, what a great idea. Anybody got any ideas? Or what do you think? That's such a great idea, to just ask for inputs.
Yeah.
And then the last part is use visuals. And using visuals is, to me, that's just second nature. Every time I taught a class or every time I spoke in front of clients, I always had visuals, and it wasn't death
Oh.
by PowerPoint.
Oh, good. Phew.
It wasn't death by PowerPoint. I would bring in articles, or I would take us outside and we would grab things and we would pick up things and we would touch things. But
Mhm.
the visuals makes it so much, because we all don't learn the same way.
That's true.
Okay. And visuals kind of helps those individuals who don't learn just by reading or seeing. Okay, I got to touch it, got to feel it, I got to do things. So I brought in multiple media, if you will, to the learning process. Anyway, I defer to you.
Well, I have one more listed on softwareconnect.com, one of the worst implementations in history, in this case of enterprise resource planning software, ERP, which is supposed to help larger companies stay organized and maximize their profit.
Okay.
So, first of all, research suggests that 75% of ERP implementations fail. But in 2005, a company called Waste Management chose a company to implement an ERP software that was designed for their industry, tested in Germany, and scaled for use in the US in their industry. So that was 2005. By 2008, the lawsuits began.
Ooh.
Waste Management sued that company for $500 million to recoup failed implementation costs, and added
Wow.
another $350 million in loss of promised benefits.
Oh my.
So the software company admitted that their sales demonstrations were not created with actual software,
Ah.
but they blamed Waste Management themselves for not doing their due diligence to see if this was a product that could really work for them.
Oh my goodness.
So finally in 2010, they settled out of court.
Oh no. For massive amounts of money, I'm sure.
I'm
Oh my
sure.
goodness.
I'm sure. But I love how, well, yes, we made up the figures, but it's your fault because you should have
You
researched us
you
better.
should you should have known better. Oh my goodness.
I'm not sure what the moral of that story is.
Sheila, as I'm looking at the clock, I see it says 26:55. So we have time. Um,
Okay.
but certainly want to hear the question as to how much that URL
Yes.
cost.
Yes. So
Yes.
the question again, what was the price for the most expensive domain name, which was carinsurance.com. It was $49.7 million.
Are you kidding me?
I am not kidding you. That
Now,
was in,
you,
and
you just
remember that these domain names were free up until 1995.
now you just taught us that we need to check figures, all right? So it's not your
Yes,
fault that you might have given us bad information or good information. It's our fault if we didn't check that.
that's
Did you
right.
check that number? Was it 49 million
I saw it
right?
on two different sources.
Oh my goodness. Can you wow.
I know. So a lot of people try to make money by buying up domain names, again, in the names of affiliated with celebrities, with the idea that down the road they could sell them for a lot of money.
Yes, yes.
I don't recommend that. That is not what we're suggesting here.
Okay. All right, Sheila, we are out of time. Can you take
Wayne,
us home, please?
thank you for this word. It was a lot like the word execute that we did a couple seasons ago, but I loved researching this to implement this verb. And we thank folks for listening and ask that you recommend verbs to us as well. And we look forward to hearing from you in other ways too, about other topics too. So thank you, Wayne. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Sheila. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye. See you
Bye
next
bye.
Thursday.
Yes.